Thanks for seeing us.
No, it's great. Good.
All right. Flint's poor. It's majority black. They feel like you've abandoned them. Is this your Katrina?
Well, if you look at it, this is a disaster. I mean, this is something that I had people that worked for me, to be blunt, that let all of us down. But I'm responsible, so I'm not trying to get out of that. You have to be responsible for these things. I'm taking responsibility, but I want to fix the problem.
Lead aside.
Yeah.
How could you have not known that water was toxic for a year and a half? It was orange. It had fecal material in it. They put chlorine in there that could poison people. GM wouldn't put its machinery in it. Your spokesman was married to the spokesman of the DEQ. You didn't get a whisper, and if you didn't, what does that say about you?
Yeah, again, there were concerns with the water, and I appreciate that. There were color issues, other issues. There were a couple boil advisories, and none of that was good. But those were being addressed in really their own issue in some fashion. The topic of lead didn't come up. And again,
let's keep lead aside for
Yeah.
a second. When you knew the water was awful and continually awful, you had the power with a pen to immediately switch back to the Detroit water. Why didn't you do that?
Yeah, again, it's not that simple. Again, in terms of the power of the pen, those dollars need to come from an appropriation process. I don't write checks as the governor of Michigan.
Then there was reports, talk, February of last year, June, July, about potential lead contamination. Even then, you didn't say, hey, let's get out of this water source and move back to Detroit like you did recently?
Well, to put it in context, the major discussions really were escalating. It really started more in the middle of the year and later part of the year. There was a case in particular, if you go back to February, where there was a household. And this is, again, where the information I was getting from the Department of Environmental Quality, the Department of Health and Human Services, were saying that's an isolated case. It's been addressed. New lines have been replaced. That they don't see any overall issue with lead in the water in Flint. And the same thing on the blood level testing. They didn't see that issue. I mean, I actually got, there's one of the documents that'll come out in terms of a briefing I got. It was September 28th of last year, still telling me that there wasn't a lead problem in Flint. I got a conference call that same day telling me that they believe there could be. It's frustrating, Charlie. This is not the kind of stuff
that you want to be remembered for or have to deal with.
Well, forget the memory part.
Or have to deal with today.
I care about these people. That's who I work for.
Could it be the style of government that you were running? I mean, with the emergency manager, it's almost czar-like power. Could it be you created a culture where the underlings in this bureaucracy wanted to please you and give you what you wanted?
No, I don't think that's the case at all. Again, you need to separate the emergency manager. The emergency manager has no interface with the Department of Environmental Quality, the Department of Health and Human Services. These are experts that were career civil servants.
How come nobody's been fired?
People resigned, and I replaced them.
How come nobody's been fired?
Well, again, the people that potentially could have been fired resigned.
Tell the people, though, did you ask them to resign?
Well, again, I don't want to get into all that kind of issue. They're gone, and new people are there.
Flint wants to know when it will be fixed. Be bold. When will this be fixed? Give me a date. Give me a year.
Yeah, I wish it was that simple. And again...
But a goal, so we can all...
In terms of a goal, I have several goals. Short term, I want to make sure that every household in Flint has access to water filters, water, blood tests, water tests, what they need to get them through the short-term crisis. Next set of goals, they're long-term goals. How do we get the water coming out of the tap to be safe and clean? So you can just take it out and drink it like you should.
Trust is gone, right? Trust is gone. It's got to be re-earned.
Yes, absolutely.
Your administration, your bureaucracy is saying the water is safe to bathe in. Nobody believes that. And the question, and answer it honestly, please, would you have your grandchildren bathe daily in that water coming out of those pipes now?
Yeah.
You would?
Yeah, because again, that's the advice I've gotten.
I wouldn't let my child chew on a Chinese-made toy. I don't think I'd let my child, as just a person, a rational person that doesn't know much, bathe in water where we know there's high levels of lead. You would let your grandchild bathe in that.
Again, I'm not saying that we don't know that there are necessarily high levels of lead in every bathtub. But again, there could be that risk. But we've been told by the experts that by itself, you want to watch the child. Again, this is not...
You see the irony in that
No, I see the
answer.
irony. You just don't want to leave them by themselves. You need to monitor that to make sure they're not drinking the water. So I'm not saying it's that simple. But again, you have to look at, what some of the facts really are.
In your time as governor, you cut business taxes $2 billion a year. We got substandard water service in Flint to save $2 million a year. Question is, whose interests do you serve? Corporate's welfare or the public's welfare? Who's first in your heart and on your desk?
No, it's absolutely the citizens of the state.
Well, $2
And
million
I've
is
proven that
1/10
over
of
and over again.
1%.
There are so many...
We could have found that money.
Again, if you go through the illustrations of doing great things like Healthy Michigan, 600,000 people have health care in the state today that they didn't have before.
We could have found $2 million in that $2 billion tax cut. Do you regret that?
Again,
Priorities.
people can look back and do so many different scenarios on all this. You could spend your life going through permutations of how this could have been avoided. And that's part of the struggle that I have personally. It's like the second guessing and stuff. I feel awful about this.
You seem kind of busted up about it.
Oh, how could you not be? These are people. They've been harmed. You can't feel good about that. The people of Flint have been harmed. And it was that harm, a major influence of that harm came from people that worked for me. And I feel responsible for that. But I'm committed to solving the problem, addressing the damage as much as possible for the rest of the time I'm governor.
Thank you.
Thanks.